Hailing frequencies open, and welcome to Star Trek Discoverage, the live podcast that boldly goes into excruciating detail about this week's episode of Star Trek Discovery. I'm your host, Aaron Coker, a.k.a. Caliban, and I'm going to make a I Made It Through 23 Weeks of Trek t-shirt for celebrating the end of 23 Weeks of Trek. Joining me on the show, as usual, is my co-host. She's also the co-host of the Generations Geek podcast, a more or less family-friendly celebration of geekdom. It's Ella Pearson. Ella, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Ella, would you wear a I Made It Through 23 Weeks of Trek t-shirt?
Do I have to spell it first, and how fast?
Yes, I think that's the qualifying trial for having to get a shirt like this. Once you can do it, then
IMADE. No, just kidding. I would wear it.
Do not forget the hyphen. Also joining us on the show tonight, they're a musician and a podcaster, the co-host of the Virtual Theater podcast and the Pro Wrestling Required Viewing podcast, and my co-host on the Backtracking podcast. It's Gooey Fame. Gooey, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Good to have you back.
Yeah.
I was just thinking the other day about what we were talking about on the news item portion of our last recording session for Backtracking, and then how it connected to something that we were talking about when we were talking about Nemesis recently, and that is all the different ways that we can not improve, but let's say diversify the character of Janeway.
Okay, yeah.
We were talking about her appearance on Star Trek Prodigy, how she was going to be helping out these kids, and you made the great suggestion that, is she a kid too? Did she have like a Rascals situation happen?
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was like, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
For some reason, I don't remember the suggestion.
It's going to be like little Katie Janeway is going to lead these plucky kids on their ship.
Why not? Yeah, they didn't say. Yeah, you pointed out like. I like we should just say what the other person said, but you said they didn't specify what time period this takes place in.
That's right.
So
yeah.
Maybe
yeah, she's pulled from the past. Yeah, a grieving young Kate Janeway is actually I'm not sure how old she was when her dad died, but let's say she was young, and yeah, she puts together with these ragtag kids. Also, we were talking on the Nemesis show about, I posed to you a hypothetical question about how Janeway would handle the situation that Picard found himself in Nemesis, meaning just the political situation. But you were like, oh, like a clone of Janeway? And I was like, that's it right there. Shins away.
Shins way.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. They could that could be a great like mid-season twist, actually. You think it's Janeway the whole time.
I think we figured out too that she would have to try to immediately kill her opposite, because Janeway doesn't like opposites of her or doubles of her.
I can't think of any episodes. I feel like
really there's a couple.
Yeah, they're not as memorable to me, but I feel like if you're a Star Trek captain, it is in like the Starfleet rules that you have to at least cloned once,
right?
By
Yeah,
accident.
yeah.
If not, like at least 3 times.
And then when you have to like try to shoot yourself or something like that.
Yeah, no, there's no other way it should end.
Yeah, that's in the bylaws. That's absolutely the way that it has to go.
Or they have to like get stabbed and then like eerily pull themselves further through the impalement.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I stab you, you stab me, we're both Janeway, then we both pull each other through the pipes
just to show
ourselves.
how twisted we really are.
Yeah, and then we kiss in the middle. That's how it works. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, we did it. This is a great Nickelodeon show.
Yeah, that's for the Nick show. Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us on this show tonight. I wanted to talk quickly about a news item that I saw. Which has to do with Star Trek Discovery specifically. We have found out that Star Trek Discovery is, of course, renewed for a 4th season, and it will actually begin shooting fairly soon. And a lot of people were wondering how they were going to do that when we have the situation that we've got with COVID, of course. It's scheduled to shoot the beginning of next month, November 2nd, and Alex Kurtzman said, Alex Kurtzman, official man who gets interviewed for Star Trek, although I think Mike McMahon is lapping him now, but they were asking him how they're going to do it, and he revealed that they would be using an AR wall in the same fashion that The Mandalorian does. Not sure if you know or have seen any behind-the-scenes footage, but on The Mandalorian, many, if not all, of the settings and locales that they find themselves in are filmed separately or are computer-generated, and then the actors merely play within a virtual space that is projected behind them in a sort of 21st century version of the rear projection of old-time filmmaking.
That sounds weird and bad to me.
Yeah, and that's how. So, does that mean that the actors aren't going to be together, or does it how are they using that for Disco?
Well, that's a good question. You can read the full interview on IndieWire, and he goes into some detail, but not a lot. I'm assuming that it would be, smaller groups of actors rather than having a large crew, which is how you really get, spreading a lot of things around. But yeah, I just think that that's really incredible. It's really like, when you think about it, kind of like our 21st century version of the holodeck. It's about as close as we can get right now in a physical space. Of course, we've got VR, but when you watch, I've watched some of these behind the scenes featurettes for The Mandalorian, and it really is incredible. They control the lighting so well so that if you've got, say, a desert planet behind you or Iceland or whatever, you can reproduce that lighting to the degree that it just looks so real. And I'm sure there's an expense involved, but, so is going on location, so is going out to Tunisia or something like that. So it really is an amazing new tool that makes a lot of sense for sci-fi, but who knows? Maybe it'll work its way down to MacGyver or whatever. They'll be using it all over TV in the future.
Did they do that on the first season of Mandalorian?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And it looked good? Because I'm skeptical of this looking good.
It looks so good.
I've only seen a few episodes of The Mandalorian, but in the first 5 episodes they use it, do you think?
They used it all over, yeah. They used it in the very first the Ice Planet episode they used it.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Because it's sharp. That's a clean television show.
And when you think about that first episode, if I'm remembering it correctly, it begins on an ice planet, and then now we're talking about Star Wars on Star Trek, but whatever. And then he goes into space and he goes to another planet, which is like a desert planet. And so you watch Star Wars, the films, where they, green screens and all that stuff aside, they're shooting on these locations, and you just get used to that as a visual feel for Star Wars. And I think it's one of the reasons that The Mandalorian works so well, because you immediately don't question, I'm watching a TV show, and these guys are in the middle of a desert somewhere. How do they do this? You don't even ask that. You just, oh yeah, it's Star Wars. But this is how they accomplish that.
That's crazy. I had no idea.
Yeah. And it's coming to Star Trek now.
I can't wait till they employ this technology on young Sheldon.
Yes, when young Sheldon went to Tatooine, yes. But I will be looking to see how it looks in Season 4. I'm very, very fascinated by this technology.
Wow. Next on Star Wars, The Mandalorian, we're going to go.
Yeah, get the right background in. Yeah, you don't want to see a Discovery back there. Well, tonight we've seen the second episode of the third season of Star Trek Discovery, Far From Home. We're here to break it down for you. And before we start, and as always, we are setting a course for the spoiler zone listeners. So be warned, we're glad you've decided to join us, but I'm going to cough. It's a live show, sorry. But if you haven't seen the episode, spoilers are incoming. The official synopsis for Far From Home is: after the USS Discovery crash lands on a strange planet, the crew finds themselves racing against time to repair their ship. Meanwhile, Saru and Tilly embark on a perilous first contact mission in hopes of finding Burnham. This episode, like the last episode, was written by Michelle Paradise, Jenny Lumet, and Alex Kurtzman, producers and showrunners all for Star Trek. And, of course, it was directed, like the last episode, by Olatunde Unsansamni. The stardate for this episode, or there is no stardate, but it's 3189, and you have to wonder how long stardates are getting now. How many digits are they up to, do you think?
It's like my phone number.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, every couple years
my
they
phone
add
number
3.
is longer.
Yeah. It's Pi Day, literally. It's just the number is pi. So here's some facts. I thought that was pretty funny. Here's some facts from our memory banks about the episode. This is the first episode where Rachel and Cheryl's name appears in the opening title sequence. Since she's been added to the regular cast, she, of course, plays Commander Nan. The USS Discovery's crew was first established in Choose Your Pain as 136 souls. They are now down to 88, which means that presumably there's been casualties, or over 40 people decided to stay in the 23rd century.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I wouldn't blame anyone for doing that.
We do have that scene where Burnham's like, I have to go alone. It's like, we're coming with you, and it's the main cast. But presumably off camera they went, okay, we're going to the future, but you don't have to go. And there's some people that just kind of slink out of the room, right?
That would have been less inspiring.
Yeah, to the escape pods and the shuttlecraft. The big guest star in this episode...
80. When you said 80 people, I was like, that's pretty good that many people chose to come.
That many people, came along. The big guest star in the episode is Jake Weber as Zara. He's a bit of that guy. Not maybe so recognizable, but he's been in a lot of films like the Dawn of the Dead remake in 2004, the Meet Joe Black remake in the late 90s, U-571, and the movie Pushing Tin. And I think it's safe now that the crew is essentially back together to bring back Theory Corner. Any theories about what's going on? We've had a couple mysteries put in front of us here. Any theories as to where we're heading or what's happening right now in the future of Star Trek?
You go first, Gooey.
Oh, okay. I have less of a theory and more of, I guess, what I keep thinking about they're going to explore, because they keep talking about like people remember the Federation and like,
yeah.
I thought it was kind of strange that people like could, like, if you go 1,000 years in the future, that like their technology is like recognizable to them, or like,
yeah,
they wouldn't be totally sketched out by, they're just like, okay, yeah, we'll fix your thing, which is compatible with our tech. But anyway, they're like talking about the Federation, and I'm just sort of, I was just sort of like thinking about where they're going to go with like the Federation as an idea, as an ideal or whatever. And I don't know, I'm like cautious about it, I guess. I'm not that into it as an idea that they're exploring.
It's interesting because like we deal in centuries in sci-fi and Trek all the time. 1,000 years goes by. Is that a big deal or not? And I mean, it is a big deal. Like on our planet, we've definitely had like continual human society for 1,000 years, no problem. But when you think about like the sort, like the Roman Empire and the time that it lasted and the relative peace that it provided and economic stability to allow the advancement of technology and the development of economy. And then you can lose all that, with some kind of crash or like the Bronze Age collapse that basically, affected society. So like assuming that maybe it seems like the Federation is not too long gone, especially when you've got a guy who within his living memory, has been sitting on a space station and remembers the better days of the Federation. So if you've got like, let's say almost 900 years of continual, development of technology, I would imagine that things would be really different. But then again, a wheelbarrow is a very old tool. Maybe there's just some things that you just reach a level where it's like,
that's a good point.
This works. We can put lights on it, but I mean, it kind of just does what it does, no matter what century you're in. So I don't know. I'm more like cautious, I guess, about like they keep holding up the Federation as like this is the ideal we want to restore, but like I don't know, maybe it's just like my own personal opinion, but I like the idea of like we want to uphold these values or whatever, but I care a lot less about it being centered around like this particular state, like the political state of the United Federation of Planets, and more about like, taking care of the people, and, especially because I'm sure this is like supposed to be some sort of like USA metaphor that the Federation has become, Yeah. I've been thinking about that a lot recently, and I sent a link to Ella earlier in the week. There's a writer named Darren Mooney who writes for Escapist magazine, and he wrote a sort of a treatise or sort of theme on that particular idea, like holding. It's clear that like in this, Star Trek has always been about the time that it's made in, about the now, and how this is clearly a metaphor for trying to restore American democracy, or trying to, get back to our values, in more of a liberal way than that's usually brought up, making the Federation great again. And he really kind of like digs into
don't say that.
Well, I mean, he really kind of digs into that idea and talks about how it is troubling. Only liberals can hurt themselves this badly, but how it is troubling to like, what are we restoring here? This is a franchise that is very progressive, but has taken a long time to add even the most basic, what we think of as progressive elements to it in the 21st century, and how it has its kind of roots in DNA and this sort of American exceptionalism and this and like Cold War philosophy. And I'll tell you what, it's on The Escapist. Like I said, it's Darren Mooney. The title of the article, if anybody's interested, is even in its third season, Discovery shows Star Trek's future is stuck in its past. And I thought it was very,
exactly.
Yeah, it's a good title. It's a long title. It's a good title. But like I said, I've been thinking about that as well. And I think that's, we don't have to dig it all out now, but it's something that I think will unfold, hopefully, thoughtfully as the show goes on. I want to talk about the burn.
I want to keep talking about the article for a second.
Oh, Ella, tell me what you thought about the article.
That, and I only saw it today, and so I feel like I didn't absorb it fully, but that is some of the best like writing and analyzing of like TV that I've read in so long.
Yeah.
And it made me wish that I that I was a super senior, that I had like a 5th year of college so that I could use it in something. It's so stunning. And I feel like the point to be made is that he was so right in saying that like Star Trek has never really confronted directly, like using the Federation as a parallel for the US. It's never really confronted directly our own issues. And so to then skip to this season of Disco and, like you said, try to make the Federation great again, it's like we've never fully criticized the issues within ourselves. And so then to be like, well, here's the good in us.
Yeah.
It's so hard to get there without first being like, well, here's the bad within us. Because even it was like, the last couple seasons, even our like Leland still felt so separate because something was controlling him, even though it was something that Starfleet created. Something was controlling him.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's even when cracks in the edifice are explored, it's always bad admirals. It's Section 31. It's outside forces like Leland, and it's never. The problem now is like to use a modern parallel. It's like Nixon, what a crazy guy, man. He almost ruined this country. What was he doing? And now, like in this new age, we realize the problems aren't the people. The people are put there by other people who have a different way of thinking, and it's not progressive. And so, I think that's fascinating. Darren Mooney is a great writer. I just discovered, too, that he runs a blog called themovieblog.org, and the O in movie is a 0. And he has been writing, like, reviews of Trek episodes and essays for years. And I use them as, like, reference when I'm developing scripts for shows. And I read this article and just put, he's that guy. So I'm going to see if I can get him on a future episode of Enterprising Individuals.
I was going to say.
Yeah, stay tuned for that. So we'll see. Let's talk about the burn. I think it's a lot less interesting, but it's it's a hook for the new season. Of course, we have to point out that it's half of Michael Burnham's name. I don't know if that means anything, but a lot of people that's the tin hat theory du jour, like Vok in season 1 on the internet.
We already got the tinfoil hats on.
It could actually connect to what we've been discussing, like that. It could be something where you find out the cause of it is because of like some shortcoming of the Federation or whatever, and it's like, I'm just like predicting the final episode, but like, we actually need to like press forward in this different way so we can avoid the circumstances that will bring about the burn again.
Well, I mean, it's absolutely a fossil fuels, climate change metaphor.
Oh yeah.
Do you think?
I'm just assuming that. So we don't know yet. We're off and running talking about the episode here. So here we go. Like they crash on the same planet that Burnham crashed on, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
the Iceland
I think
planet.
so.
Yeah, and she didn't encounter.
Reykjavik.
Yeah, right. Planet Reykjavik, and she didn't encounter.
I thought it was Death Stranding. They crashed on.
Oh, so popular Iceland, so hot, so cold right now. And they didn't, or she didn't encounter any of the Avatar rocks or anything like that, right? So, like, did something happen after she left? Presumably,
or maybe just this. They only grow in this part of the planet.
Okay, possibly
different. Areas of biodiversity.
It just seemed like it's playing up this idea of ecological disaster, and there's parasitic ice that will destroy you and your ships and the things you've built, and gravitational fluctuations and that sort of thing.
I didn't think there was like much thought behind the parasitic ice, because it just out of nowhere he's like, the ice will engulf you. It's parasitic. I'm like, ice. Whoa, that would be like a whole episode of Star Trek. Normally, but it's like where like they landed it and they're like, oh, it's like taking over more, and they like discover this, but instead it's just like it felt very much like a thing like a 7-year-old would throw in, and it's like now it's got a big bomb in it.
You thought that the ticking clock was unnecessary with the hostage situation and just the trying to find Burnham, and we're lost in the future and everything else.
Like, I don't know. I just feel like it wasn't set up. It was just like the bad guy was then like, oh yeah, by the way, the ice is parasitic.
Ooh, and there's some parasitic ice.
Wow. I was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of when we were talking about Cat's Paw earlier, and you've got, the ship is encased in a lucite block, and so Chekhov and Lasala are trying to get the ship out, and then just as like, I think we made a dent in it, and then later on the main bad guy's like, oh, I let them out, so it didn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. But then it would then be like, though, if the main bad guy was like, but now it's on fire.
Oh,
why? Okay. Just felt so sudden. I don't know.
Yeah. I think it's really tough to conceptualize the future, and it's got to be really tough to conceptualize the future of the future.
Future.
It's one thing to have Daniels in his ribbed outfit, just being like, I'm from the future. There's a Cold War. But to actually have to sit in it and go, okay, well, what are the Orions up to? What are the Tellarites doing? Is everybody have a really smooth face? They do. Okay, good. What are the guns like? It's a tough thing to do, and I think that they've purposefully kept a lot of the encounters smaller because you've got to kind of build to it. And it's some of the preview things that we've seen, it looks like, we're going to really get into like what's happening here in the future. But of course, when you have something like the burn, you kind of give yourself a little bit of leeway, because if everybody's using like older technology, because the new stuff doesn't work, or they've got broken stuff, then you can kind of like ease into like, all right, what are we going to do? I don't expect any like gigantic season 2 ending like fleet battles or anything for a while. That's what I'm guessing.
There's probably not other fleets, right? Because they're like a lot of ships had dilithium, and I don't know, would they blow up or something?
Yeah, like nobody seemed to be. Well, actually, nobody's surprised that they were time travelers, but nobody seemed to be all that like surprised when they said that, we were adrift for a while, and they're like, oh yeah, that like that happened to us when our dilithium broke or whatever.
So it's kind of like a future Dark Ages.
Yeah, it seems like that. Yeah.
Yeah, your Roman Empire metaphor works a lot. Yeah.
Well, yeah. The episode opens starkly, and one of the first shots we see is like Kayla Detmer's just like not moving, open-eyed head on a console.
I thought she was dead.
Yeah, and I was
gone.
Yeah, and I was like, man, what if they just killed Detmer? Like, what would people do?
I would have been bummed, because I feel like I've wanted to get to know that character a little bit more, and they have started to, I feel like, in the last season a little bit, but not fully there yet.
Also, what's wrong with her?
Well, I'm worried that they're building up to her.
Does she have
dying.
the same, what is the word for what Leland had?
Oh, you
the
think
little nano things? Are they in her head?
It got into her? Uh-oh. That'd be really bad.
Kind of. Why is she acting like this? It's not a concussion because she got fixed up.
Ooh, I don't like it. I hate it, in fact. I just think that she got bonked on the metal cabeza real hard, and so she's...
But then she went down to sick bay, and they were like, "You're fine, get out."
Yeah, you're fine, get out of here.
His name looked at her like, "Whoa, something's up with her."
Are you good? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a ticking time bomb that we can leave there. The Discovery crashes on this planet in the episode. We don't usually see Starfleet ships touch the ground unless they're designed to, like Voyager. So this is like a kind of a stressful sort of situation.
Yeah, it was like a long landing. That was pretty stressful. Yeah.
I thought it was amazing. How do you guys feel about the episode overall? Because especially that opening with the crash, I was like blown away. I thought it was beautiful. I thought the effects were beautiful. I thought like everything about it. I was like so stunned, and it was so interesting, like you said, to watch them like do a real crash landing.
Yeah. I liked that sequence. I thought that was really neat, especially when you think about something like the sequence in the Voyager episode Timeless, where the ship just biffs it right into the planet. That's pretty much it for like the Voyager. It was cool to see that you can like mitigate the damage and sort of get, crash land safely. But I just wonder if apparently they can, but how does the ship get back up? Like it doesn't have, it's like, its rocket thrusters like propel it, back into orbit, or can it get like high up enough so that it can use its impulse engines? It's all plausible, I suppose, but it's just like these things are built in space and like die in space. Like they're not really meant to like go on the ground. So it's kind of scary.
Thinking of in like,
cause there's parasite ice.
Into Darkness, they like come up out of the water and they just like fly into space. So
yep, no problem.
They could probably just do that. That feels like that would be like catastrophic for the planet.
If they for that early planet?
For any planet, to have like a vessel of that size, like just like chilling in your atmosphere. I don't know how they work, but it seems like that would. It's like if you get too close to like a helicopter, it can. But this is like 4,000 helicopters.
Sure. Yeah. You're okay. Like yeah.
I don't know.
You're saying like the downforce of either the rockets or the fields that it would take a 3.5 million ton ship into orbit would cause a new Grand Canyon.
Like they parked on the Great Barrier Reef and then took off and then hit the engine.
Ooh, no.
Yeah, that parasite ice is going to be all like white when they're leaving, all white and dead, like the Barrier Reef.
God.
But, yeah, it was a parasitic ice, but you killed it.
Yeah. My girlfriend had a great point about sickbay in this episode, and I also wanted to talk about sickbay in this episode. Detmer hits her head, and they're like, you need to go to the sickbay, Lieutenant. And my girlfriend's like, do they have a buddy system for sickbay? Because they don't know she's going to get there.
Yeah, especially right now. I thought this too, because they just made like an emergency crash landing. Like, there might not even be a sickbay right now. They don't know.
Yeah,
well, it's like that time. It's like when that kid wandered in when Burnham was in the brig, and was like, "I hit my head. I was supposed to go to sick bay," and she's like, "Bro, you're not in sick bay."
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's a great. The medical procedures on Discovery not so good. Yeah, he got sucked out.
That's all Star Trek. There's too much freedom on the ship.
Yeah, right.
Too much freedom in Star Trek. Lock it down.
Yeah. When you work in on the 12th floor of an office building, you can't go to whatever floor you want. You got to go to the lobby or to the 12th floor. Yeah.
You got to feed your thing. It turns green.
Somebody's going to trip over Detmer in the hallway on deck 10.
Loxana Troy can just ask where the captain is and get led into his Dixon Hill program. No problem.
But let's be honest.
Gooey on fire with the early TNG references.
Yeah, no problem.
What was that, Ella?
She could get into the White House. Loxana Troy could just walk.
Yeah, I can see it.
The Oval Office. And
she can talk her way through anything, yeah.
Also, like they're releasing. I know that this is a triage situation. Like everybody's hurt, but they're releasing people from sickbay who are not well. Like Jet, maybe it's an old injury resistant to 23rd century technology. There's nothing they can do. But you know, Paul's not ready to leave sickbay, and now he's crawling around through Jeffrey's tubes. And then they call for. They call for Culber, and he's not the chief medical officer, so maybe he does house calls. He shows up, and he's in like a completely bloody, like Starfleet medical uniform. It's just like, change your jacket. Like they must have like, first of all, why aren't they in scrubs, or aprons with PPE? But yeah, but he just
Maybe
comes
that's
out.
An issue they've solved in the future.
They don't need
it's all sterile. Like they just have like UV
yeah.
beams shoot out and sterilize.
Yeah,
all
they don't
blood.
get headaches and
when you become like a medical officer, they just laser you. You're hairless and you're perfect at all times. You don't even need to wash your hands.
He still looks like he works in a butcher shop.
It's an emergency. You think he's gonna stop and replicate a new uniform?
That actually,
I
it would be
not.
very easy to do costume changes in this situation. Costume.
Maybe. What if the replicators are down?
That's true, but have a closet with a couple white jackets in it. I don't know. Or just hose them down. Just take them back. Just hose them down.
Hose it down. Take a sonic shower real quick before you go help your dying partner.
Yeah.
Also, I'm confused about the status of their relationship.
Okay. Paul and
Wait, at the end, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I thought
I forgot the last season. So.
Me too. Everything I watch, and it goes right out the other ear.
Things were tense between them, especially as Culber was sort of screwing his head back on after he, was resurrected. But then in the finale, he just kind of was like, after Stamets was hurt, he's like, "Oh, I'm here for you. Everything, I'll be with you." And so I guess they're okay.
All right.
Yeah.
I wish you guys. I was messaging Mo, who's been on the show at Sound of Cosplay.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's the middle of the night in Austria, and so Mo is asleep. But I was like, Mo, I don't know what's going on.
You got to be on call. Come on.
It's like, Mo, wake up, dude.
Like Culber, yeah.
Trek time.
Also, as far as like their, what do you call it? Just, their blood safety stuff. The guy's just shoveling like chunks of Leland into a box.
That was so icky. But I love him. He was so funny. Whoever that like extra was that
He's doing the dirty work.
I think his name was Sean, but I've already forgotten. Yeah.
His character's name was Gene because I had the subtitles on. And I said, I'm in love.
I'm in love with
I was
Chunk
also
Boy.
like, that's disgusting. Shovel some more brains.
I have a question, or like maybe like a weird thing. Maybe you guys won't agree with me, but you mentioned their relationship. And I was thinking, I don't think anybody on the show has like a neutral interaction with another person. Like it's either insane hostility or bickering or overt affection. And no one is ever just like having a normal conversation. Okay, yeah. Like no one's ever just like discussing a thing normally, which it would be boring if that's all it was. But like everyone is either jumping down someone's throat or like, I love you more than anything. I'm like okay.
Georgiou with Linus, she's like, I bet you just see everything.
Yeah, it makes sense
like,
that she would be intense. Yeah, but I don't know. I'm kind of off put by that a little bit. It's like it feels just like constant heightened emotions, and I get it's a tense situation, but
it's like everybody. Yeah, it's television. Everybody's kind of lecturing each other. Like everybody's, and I know like part of it is exposition. So somebody's like, "Well, I don't want to do that." Well, officer, that we have to do. And so, I think it's like partially a device to kind of get the story moving, but it's also there is a lot of this tension. You're not supposed to have that in the military. The people with 1 pip are supposed to shut up, and then the people with the 4 pips can do whatever they want. But there was a lot of kind of brinksmanship.
When they have to argue about it, when there's an authority struggle, Georgiou and Saru.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's an interesting storyline for sure. I'm not trying to be someone who's like, back in my day, Star Trek, they all got along and they all did their jobs good. But I do feel like they're always arguing or in love, and the camera is always spinning around. And I'm like, I just want.
And there's too many lights.
Maybe they're all dizzy. Yeah, they're all nauseous.
Detmer is dizzy. Paul is dizzy.
Yeah, right.
Everyone's dizzy.
Well, they're organically dizzy. Everybody else is dizzy from the camera. I like how Saru is so by the book that he keeps calling himself acting captain, and it's like, look left, look right.
No.
There ain't no federation, buddy. You're whatever. You're admiral. You're whatever you want to be now.
That's cool though. That's gonna be his story. I feel like, right?
Yeah, I think so. Because he obviously the idea of holding your ideals in place is a big part of this. And we see that in this episode when we get into the saloon standoff. And Saru's not even, I mean, at the end, when they get the drop on them, he's like, okay, let's all, punch him or run or whatever. But even after they horribly kill that guy, he's like, all right, look, we're going to make you a fair deal. We'll give you X amount of dilithium, and then we'll leave. And that's what we're going to do here, because we're not going to take your threats, but also we're not going to resort to violence, because we don't do that. And I like that, and I hope he's able to maintain that, but I think that's going to get challenged as the show goes on.
I like too, he did have a nice little talk when they were on their way there, and he got to be kind of like supportive and captainly.
Yeah.
That was such a good moment between him and Tilly when he told her that she made a good first impression. I almost burst into tears.
Yeah, I like that how their relationship is developing. Also, I like the fact that when you split characters up, it gives you a chance to sort of explore things. And I can't believe, I mean, we talked about this last week, and I kind of felt like they probably were going to get back together. But it looks like, our crew is going to be reunited. But like on one show, we've got Saru going, now put the gun down. Let's talk about this. We'll give you some dilithium. And on another show, we've got Burnham kills like 20 guys. Like is that Tellarite exchange even open anymore after all the employees were killed? Like it's just.
Well, she's also with Buck.
Yeah.
He was like, shoot them, and she was still high.
She was so stoned. Like
she was having a great time.
Some people, they get, mellow. She kills 20 people.
She had like 8 bars of Xanax. She was doing great.
I was sort of like excited about the premise of like Saru coming into his own more, and I was when they got back together, I'm sure they're still going to do that, but I was like, kind of what'll like I feel like just because Burnham is like maybe the main character, but I feel like he feels more at a disadvantage when she's not there, So
they played up their connection and their rivalry a lot in the early seasons of the show, right? But hopefully he does, because Burnham, she takes up a lot of air in the room.
Best friends.
Yeah, but they are best friends, though. I mean, hopefully we'll get to see, now that their circumstances are totally changed, like how they continue to support each other.
And there's going to be like a Bud triangle, because there's also Giorgio, and she's feuding with him.
Right. Bud triangle.
So, Bud triangle.
Let's see. That's when you've got Larry Bud Melman, R. Bud Dwyer, and Air Bud, yeah, and they're all
Air Bud. Budweiser Light.
Yeah, they're all drinking buds and trying to work it out.
Oh yeah, it's just the Budweiser frogs. Remember those guys?
Gooey, you missed your career in advertising, I think, or you still can do it. Let's see. Anything else? I've got a couple more things. Anybody else have any comments about where things are going, or just about the episode in general?
I liked it so much. I thought it was amazing.
Gooey?
Yeah, I'm trying. No, I'm like agnostic about it. I think. I think just maybe I am like a Trek grump a little bit, and it's just not. I don't think it totally clicks with me, but I'm not like angry about it or anything.
Yeah.
I just not really. I feel like I'm more passively watching the show. It's like, okay, yeah, interesting.
I could see that. I really like that we are constantly seeing our characters, in new situations, and it isn't just, you get that in other forms of Trek, but sometimes it's, nobody's shooting on the Gunsmoke set today, so we're going to do a cowboy episode of Star Trek. Or sometimes it's, these alien guys with mullets brought a board game that you get sucked into onto DS9, and let's never talk about this episode again. And at least they're pushing the characters to be in new situations. You know, where else are you going to see a saloon standoff if it's not in Spectre of the Gun or something like that? And so I think it's cool that we can do that. But at the same time, sometimes I feel like a character on Discovery, and Discovery is like yelling at me and lecturing me, especially when. So we take this amazing opportunity. We send the ship to the future. The Federation is decimated, and so they're going to be sort of the core, that they're the spark that reignites the fire. It's a great idea, but like I get that. Kind of going back to the article, I get that the Federation and Starfleet are a positive force, but you know, maybe we can make something new. Do we have to bring the old thing back and that sort of thing? And I feel like the show has been lecturing us for 2 years about how we are Starfleet, you know, we don't lie, or all the things that we don't do. And, you know, the original, like DS9 is so much more morally gray than that. Like Starfleet even coming in the first place and sticking their nose into the Bajorans' business was a huge deal. Like Kira didn't want to see Sisko's face on DS9. They didn't want any
really did not.
They didn't want interference at all. Yeah. And so the Starfleet has to play like the sort of helpful neighbor who also has huge guns and is like, well, we're going to do this. And the moral conflicts are a lot more cut and dried so far in Discovery, and not as a whole, you know. But this new storyline seems to be very kind of simplistic, and so I hope that I trust that we will find a lot of nuance as we go on in it. But right now it's just like, okay, we'll free ourselves of the parasitic ice and let's get this thing going again.
Yeah,
it's also only the second episode.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So I feel like that is the vibe, but that was all. Could we go ahead?
Yeah, no, I'm a lot of like the things I'm like wary about is like jumping to the end, and I don't know if that's what it's really about, you know. But yeah, I don't know. I do think of the Roman Empire fell, and then for like 1,000 years, people were obsessed with it and wanted to bring it back. But all the people who like came close to it were like monsters,
not good people.
Yeah. So that's not to say like the like I don't know. That's just how I feel. It's like, why we don't need to bring back this space empire. We need to, you know, I don't know. I don't care where the good vibes are coming from, as long as they're good vibes. That's all I'm saying.
Just keep bringing those good vibes.
Yeah. If the Ferengi Alliance is bringing the good vibes, that's fine with me.
Yes.
You know, maybe with 1,000 years of development, the Ferengi, whatever they're called now, have got their stuff worked out. They're like, yeah, I know we were pretty bad to women before. We really regret that part of our
Wouldn't that be sweet if it turned out that like the Federation collapsed because it sucked, but the Ferengis were like woke kings, you know?
Yeah, it took him a long time. I knew him in college. Oh boy, you didn't want to know him, but now he's he's a nice, better guy. Boy, that Roman Empire comment was really chilling. So maybe let's just move on, I guess. I liked their vape guns. Now hear me out. They had these guns. They were very smooth, and they kind of hummed a little bit and glowed. And I don't know a lot about like e-cigs, but they reminded me of giant e-cigs, kind of.
It's like a jewel.
Yeah, they're like they're weaponized jewel pods.
Yeah, there's the good vibes I'm talking about.
Good vibes only.
Give us all your juice.
I think it's because people want to. I think it's because they make the jewels. They want those to look. They have the same conceptualization of like what's futuristic, you know. They want to make jewels look cool to smoke, so they make them look like Star Trek guns.
Jewel designers are like on the bleeding edge of technology design.
The high schoolers will love this. The high schoolers will go dumb stupid.
And then we can sell our branded Star Trek Discovery e-cigs. Yeah.
I mean, here comes my
paraphernalia.
Make that happen.
Perfect fit, honestly, I think.
Just kidding.
Well, I think we've pretty much nailed everything for today, unless you guys have something else that you wanted to add. But assuming not, that is it for our show this week. Thanks for joining us, listeners. If you like what you hear, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter at EISTPod for updates and get notified when new episodes of both Enterprising Individuals and Discoverage are released. And you can tweet to us on the show by using the hashtag Discoverage or email us at eistpod@gmail.com. Also, while you're on the internet, why not head to your listening platform of choice and subscribe to our show feed. Give us a rating and a review because it really helps us out. If you want to help the show grow, stop by our Patreon page at patreon.com/EISTpod. And as always, if you like the show, tell a friend. Discoverage will return on October 29th for the third episode of Season 3 of Star Trek Discovery, entitled People of Earth, which is directed by Jonathan Frakes. We'll be here next Thursday to cover it. We'll be going live once again at 7 p.m. Central, so join us then. You can follow us on Twitter or Facebook at EISTPod to get notified when we're live and broadcasting. In the meantime, you can check out our main show, Enterprising Individuals, at enterprisingindividuals.com. Every Wednesday on the show, I and a special guest discuss in excruciating detail a selected episode from a Star Trek series. We also have news from the Trek sphere and interviews with special guests. And on our latest episode, I'm joined by Gooey Fame and Ella, as well as Thad Haight of the Delta Flyer podcast and Jen of Rosemary's Ladies to talk about Star Trek Nemesis, the 2020 of Star Trek movies.
That was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun.
It was fun, yes, once we got it going. I also want to mention that Gooey and I have a Star Trek podcast called Backtrekking, and our new Halloween episode dropped today, on which we talk about the only Halloween Star Trek episode, Cat's Paw.
Hopefully not the last. I'm looking at you, Discovery.
Come on, Discovery, make it happen. Or bring all those costumes back from Star Trek Picard.
Is it next week? Yeah, Frakes is our man. He can do it. They go back to Earth and it's all skeletons.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I guess Terminator is a Halloween movie when you think about it. Yeah, at least the first part. So check that out. You can hear that episode at enterprisingindividuals.com. You can also check out Backtrekking at Backtrekking on Twitter. Ella, thank you as always for joining me to talk about the show tonight. Remind people where they can find you online. Ella, are you there?
Oh, no.
We might have lost Ella, but I'll tell you that you can find Ella and her dad's show, Generations Geek, at Generations Geek on Twitter. And Gooey, it's always great to have you on the podcast.
Yeah,
Where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at Gooey Fame. And yeah, check out Backtrekking, like you mentioned, Virtual Theater, which is at Virtual Theater X. I actually think that's what it is. And Pro Wrestling Required Viewing. I don't remember what the handle is for that, but just type it in Twitter and it'll come up.
Yeah, listen to our Backtrekking episode. Find out why 23rd century humans are afraid of giant cats. It's just in our DNA. We just can't help it.
That was genuinely a great episode. I watched that and ate Halloween candy, so I feel like you can eat Halloween candy and it'll go along well with the podcast.
Although, spoiler, it's not a great episode, so it's kind of like if you just ate candy corn all through the episode, that'd be the way to go.
It is the candy corn of Star Trek.
Yeah, so. It really is. Well, that is it for us. Thanks for listening, everyone. We are signing off. This is Aaron for Ella and Gooey saying live long and prosper.